because
the
of like,
tourist way.
yeah, like, well, I was just fucking stoned off my head the whole
Yeah,
time. Like, so,
smoke a
um,
lot of weed, go to the red light district.
right.
That was
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Mixed Opinions. I'm your host, Mixed by Jocelyn, and today we have a brilliant episode for you. You probably already recognize his face. We've got Thomas on the podcast. What is going on, bro?
Hey man, doing good. Thanks for having me on the pod.
My pleasure. Thank you for coming on. I mean, yeah, I've seen your face as being part of the audio engineering community and posting videos. Your face is consistently on my timeline every time I open up Instagram or something. So it's nice to finally get to chop it up with you.
Right.
I take it you're in your home studio right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got my home studio. Unfortunately, the camera is angled in a way that you don't see all the gear, but just trust me, there's a lot of really nice gear in front of me here. So yeah,
Well,
man.
I've seen on your Instagram, obviously you've been talking about it quite a lot recently. So if anyone watching is interested, please go and check out Thomas's Instagram. We'll have it linked below. But yeah, you look like you got some great gear. I'm like super jealous. It was one of the first things I was going to ask you. Talk about your hybrid setup and
Yeah.
how important that is to you in like a world that's sort of like everyone's kind of going just in the box and analog is becoming like a thing of the past. Like, why the emphasis on the hybrid setup?
I just like it. I just like having the knobs and everything. And to be honest, I could mix without this
Mm,
completely. I've done some of my biggest mixes in like a hotel room with a biodynamic headphone and a Volt interface, and that was it.
right.
But there's something definitely in this day and age where there's a lot of people that just record with a Scarlett and a Rode NT1A.
Mm,
Sorry to throw shade at that chain for the 600th time again, but it has a certain sound. And
yeah.
yeah, to get that to a certain industry standard, mixed, polished sound, you can throw plugins at it like Soothe and everything, but if you throw it through a good preamp like the 1073, or you throw it through, I've now got the VLC and VNE by Hazel Rig. So that's
Mm,
Tube Gear. If you throw it through some stuff like that, that's just good components.
right. I
It
see.
usually takes care of a lot of that untamable harshness and the just clogged up type of
Yeah.
sound that it can have sometimes. I just feel it's like I can work with both and I can get great results completely in the box and with the hybrid setup, but sometimes it just makes it a lot easier and I'm just done quicker.
Yeah.
You can mix for 8 hours, 16 hours, 24 hours, but you and me both know that sometimes you just get a client that says, yo, I need this mixed
Mm,
at the end of the day.
yeah.
And it's now 2 p.m. and end of the day is hopefully 5 p.m. for me. It never is. But it's like, yo, how am I going to do that? And then analog gear just usually helps. Not
Yeah.
always, but usually it just helps you get to that sound just a little bit quicker.
Mm. Do you think that that's got to do with like the tactileness of it and the fact that you're like feeling the changes rather than just like clicking a dial and like hoping for the best sort of thing?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that's a part of it. I've got the 8-channel SSL console to my right, and I love sending my drums there or all my backing vocals, stuff like that, and then just not look at the screen, put something on loop, and just
Mm,
dial in everything, get a balance with the faders going, and really just feel where it's all at, and most importantly, hear
mm.
where everything needs to sit. And it takes the focus off of the screen and just into the real world.
Yeah, I feel like because that is an issue that happens more and more nowadays, where like obviously the tactileness and the feeling of mixing is being lost because of how visual it's become. When obviously the main thing is it's not about visuals, it's about how it sounds.
Yeah,
So removing that element forces you to get back into that like focus of just listening rather than, you know, looking at a Pro Q3 and I can see that 500 hertz is like poking out far too much. Let me duck it. When if you didn't have that visual, like if you didn't have that visual part to it, you probably wouldn't have ducked it anyway. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So
Was
that's
it going to
cool.
be a problem without the
That's it.
visual
That's it. It's about does
representation
it sound good?
staying as a
Trust in your
problem?
ears.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's and it's so easily done because our eyes are obviously so much more like an advanced part of us than our ears are
yeah,
in terms of like you know as a sensory thing. Like we're always gonna like trust our eyes more before we trust our ears, which we shouldn't do obviously in music. But that's a very yeah, it's an interesting point. When you cut when it comes to like the setup, like have you set it up in a way that makes it very easy for you to like grab any of these components whilst you're mixing?
yeah, definitely. So I've got I just recently upgraded to an Apollo X16 and an X4,
Oh, I
just so
saw.
I have
Yeah, I
all
saw.
the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
inputs and outputs. So inputs and outputs 1 through 8 go to the SSL console, and then the rest goes to the gear I've got in front of me. So the 1073s and the Hazel rigs, and then I've got
Mm,
a Carnaby by Cranbourne Audio, and I've got this 1178.
nice.
I've got more stuff now. I've got too much stuff. You see the WA1B
Oh
and
yeah.
some 500 series units there because I don't have the room or the connections to plug it all in. So I think next is going to be utilizing the insert points in
Yes.
the SSL console
Yeah, and get
or
yourself
getting a
a
patch
patch
bay.
bay. Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah,
get yourself a patch bay.
yeah. But I don't. I want to have like a digitally controlled patch bay.
mm, yeah, maybe talk to audio movers. They got some plugins that help with that stuff. To be
Oh
fair.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Can't remember the name of it off the top of my head now, which is terrible. Um, but I'll chat to them and I'll send you a link because it's very useful for that. It's basically is
Nice.
a digital patch bay and you can run your whole system with it. So it makes things very good. And also in terms of like if you're using like multi doors as well, like if
Right.
you open up any door, you don't have to do any rerouting. It just does it for you in the background, which is nice.
Oh, that
So
sounds great.
yeah, yeah, it is good. It is good. It is a good plugin. Where are you based?
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam. Nice.
Yeah,
And that's where you're from.
that's where I'm from. Well, I'm from Utrecht. It's a small town, 30 minutes from Amsterdam. But
Okay.
the business that is here in the Netherlands is in Amsterdam. So
Yeah, of course. Right.
I had to go here.
Yeah, and you're like in the so you're like quite close to the city center or
Yeah, I'm right in the city center.
oh
So that's
nice.
great.
Oh
I've got an amazing spot because it's super quiet and like down the street that way is like pubs and party and I love it.
Amsterdam's such a great city. I've been there once and I loved it. I thought I was like 18. I definitely experienced it probably in like a bad way, like just
In
because
the
of like
tourist way.
yeah, like well, I was just fucking stoned off my head the whole time.
Yeah.
Like so
Smoke a
um
lot of weed, go to the red light district.
right.
That is how you should experience Amsterdam the first time you get
When
there.
in Rome, you know? So,
Yeah.
but, yeah, no, it was yeah, it was crazy. I remember I did this, like, THC bomb,
Mhm.
like a big balloon. Never been so high in my entire life. Like, it was crazy. But, yes, yeah, maybe, seeing that you're there is, be an excuse to go back out there and come and say
Right?
hi to
Yeah,
you and
man.
experience the city in a different way maybe. So
Right?
yeah, but
Yeah,
that's cool. So
do it.
talking about like where you're from and stuff, like how did you get started in the music industry?
Um, I think I got started in the music industry as yeah, just a teenager wanting to be the next hip hop star, producer, making beats in my bedroom, and then yeah, building from that. Then I started doing studying production actually.
Okay.
And then I tried to do it all, and I tried to become um, try to have my own business as an audio engineer producer. And I figured out that uh, all the gear that I bought and all the things I thought that I was going to do and that it was going to bring me actually never happened because I didn't have the experience yet or the track record. And then I decided to go to SAE
Yes. Okay.
here in Amsterdam, and that opened so many doors for me that I
I didn't know they had one in Amsterdam actually, because
yeah
they got one in London, right?
yeah
Yeah, I didn't know they had one how old were you when you went to SAE?
21,
Okay.
22, something
Right.
like that.
And that's when you really started to, like, dive into the music technology side of things?
Yeah, so before that, I already got into all of the recording and mixing stuff at the other studies I did.
Mhm.
So that was music production, and my production teachers, they would just talk about recording and mixing and mastering and everything. And I felt like, hey, that's a very interesting path to now figure out because I'm a gear slut and I just like getting all the gear and figuring out all the gear. I spent hours on Toman and on YouTube figuring out what gear I needed to buy. And um, yeah, then I finally came up with a list,
Right.
and I bought a couple of gear pieces that I thought were going to make me the best studio in town, and just doesn't work that way. I
No,
figured out.
no.
So
So that's where, and then that's when you decided to go to SAE?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Then
Right.
I decided to. I got an inheritance from my dad. That's how I could get the gear, and that's also how I could get into SAE. I spent
Okay.
the last bit of that money um, on SAE, and
Right.
then I went there, and I was like, yeah, that was for me. That was already the dream because I could get into studios, and I spent so much time on YouTube the years before that that I was immediately top of the class. And as soon as we got access to the studios, I was like, okay, I don't need to figure out how a console works anymore. I can just record an entire band. Let's fucking go.
Yeah.
And that was so much fun. And I just grabbed all the studio time I could get just to get the experience and get artists into the room and just work with the
Yeah.
gear and
So
work in the
so
studio.
you started obviously already at a high level and a bit more of an understanding than the rest of your peers.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
gave you a little bit more of an advantage, and then you could spend more time sort of
Yeah.
like actually like working and doing it. Because that's one thing that I've learned is like obviously if you go in like anyone watching this and they're thinking about studying music technology, if you spend the time before and prep yourself before, you don't have to spend that time learning all of the basics, like what an XLR cable is. When the
Right.
rest of the class are doing it, you can then just get in and start working already. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's a real benefit to it, not just obviously like having the knowledge and being able to pass, but it's like actually physically working like on music gives you like that upper hand. That's really cool. And so from there, graduated, obviously did well. What was next?
Well, I graduated and I had or SAE had this collaboration with Red Bull. Red Bull had 11 studios all over the world. They had an
See that
Amsterdam.
behind your head?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the. I've got a couple of memorabilia from that time, and that was the Red Bull Studios in Amsterdam, and they had this thing that alumni from SAE could work there. Uh, it wasn't really an internship. It was also not paid work, but it was like we just have 10 or 20 alumni and you just run the sessions, do it, and have fun. because everybody
Right.
wanted to get into the studio. Red Bull knew that as well. They built a sick studio, and it was like, hey, just let's get these guys in because they just want to have the work. They just want to be able to work with the artists and be in a cool studio.
Mm.
So uh,
Taking advantage.
yeah, but hey, it is what it takes in the music industry.
Yeah.
You have to work for free in the beginning. There's very little valuable and fun opportunities that are also going to pay you
Mm.
a normal amount of money or any money. If
Yeah.
you want to tag along with a producer or an engineer that you want to learn from, you're gonna start off with tagging along for free, and then later on, once they know they can trust you, they're going to pay you.
Yeah. That's it.
Might be a little bit different in big studios if you start as a runner or something. But yeah, there aren't that many opportunities like that either.
We
Um,
had we had a quite parallel situation there, to be fair,
yeah.
because not Red Bull, but one of their competitors in the UK here is Relentless. I don't know if you've heard of
Oh
Relentless.
no.
Um, they're owned by Monster, but they were a big energy drink here,
Like
and they
the bullet version of
yeah, well, it's just another version of Red Bull. You know what I mean? It's an
yeah,
energy
yeah.
drink. Yeah, yeah.
I'm saying that because bullet is from Rebel. Rebel
Oh,
bought
I've
bullet.
never heard of
So
Bullet.
probably
I've never heard
Monster
of Bullet.
bought
Oh,
Relentless.
that's okay, so that's another energy drink. It's too many fucking energy drinks.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's the main point. But, yeah, they opened up a music studio, and
Oh wow.
when I was graduating from my class, I did a HND in music, I started working there and, became because they were offering free sessions to artists,
Right.
and they needed an engineer to run it. It was a small studio, but it was in central London. And yeah, that's how I got my first job in a music studio. To be fair, so parallel situations, and I got in trouble with them once because I went to Red Bull in the UK in London
Yeah.
um, to see like a Little Sims listening party or something like that. And I got caught in a photo, and I remember going into work on the Monday, and there's like
Yeah.
this picture of me up on the wall, and they're like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I'm like, "I just went," and they were like, "You can't go to the studio. It's like the main
Yeah.
competitor." And I'm like, fuck's sake,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like. But yeah, so got in trouble. But so from doing this internship, but not internship at
Yeah.
Red Bull, what was next?
So that was like one day a week, and obviously that left 6 days a week left to pay my bills.
Right.
And I thought, okay, now it's going to work. Now I've got the studio at home. I studied at SAE. I did some work with artists, and I've got a bit of a portfolio. Now the floodgates are going to open, and now I'm going to get work and get rich making music. Uh, I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but it definitely didn't happen back then. So I had to do different shit. I toured with a cover band doing live sound for them, and I was a sound assistant on a film set. Both
Oh, cool.
jobs, I
Why?
but at least I could train my ears
Yeah.
because I didn't have to wait tables or wash cars or do some shitty job that just wouldn't have anything to do with audio.
Take
And in hindsight, I'm
suck your
super glad.
soul away a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Especially if you don't want to do them.
yeah.
You know.
But at least in the weekends, I could learn how to mix on a banging PA system. And during the week, it was like, yeah, I'll just train my ears because I was assisting a guy that just said, "There's an airplane," and you'd go like, "Airplane? What the fuck?" And like a minute later, a full minute later, you go like, "Whoa, there's an airplane." He
Uh,
just heard so well, so he trained me every time to like, "Hey, you hear that?" I was like, "No." Oh, fuck, now I hear that.
Yeah, focusing in
That
on it.
was also like, it wasn't a fun job, but at least I learned skills that I now need.
Mm.
Also, being a film set, I picked some stuff up from light and camera, which now with all the content shit
Yeah, it's panned
is
out.
actually
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
fucking useful.
Yeah, yeah, of course. And at the time, you might not have even thought like, "Oh, this isn't gonna benefit me." Do you know what I mean? Just to pay
Yeah,
the bills. And I was gonna say about the live situation, like, I always say that to all of, like, my if I've got anyone working under me or, like, people that I do, like I run a course or whatever as well, and, I always say, like, live sound is one of the best places to learn your craft
yeah,
because, you have to make it sound good out of the speakers. It's the same as mixing, yeah? But you only get one shot to do it.
yeah,
The pressure is on, and if you can survive and better yet thrive in a situation like that, then when it comes to sitting in the studio with an artist, you'll be like, mate, this is a breeze. Do you know
yeah,
what I mean?
exactly, exactly.
So
I always say this to my assistant as well. If he's slow, I'm like, bro, there's a festival this weekend. I'm going to put you on stage, and you're
mm,
just going to plug shit in, because the stress that you're going to feel then and the decisions you have to make within a nanosecond
yeah,
is like, you have to you have to have gone through that. And then if you're in the studio, it's like, okay, everything here works, and I don't need to troubleshoot as much, and it just,
yeah.
if I need to
You
make a
the
decision, I need to figure out what works. And then if we have time, yeah, then we can patch in a nice chain and
Yeah,
make it all
exactly.
nice and
Yeah, and if something goes wrong as well, like, the microphone's cutting out or whatever, like, if you've come up in a live scenario, you know, when you have time, you feel like you've got all the time in the world to fix that. The pressure isn't there. Like I see so many people when they're in a recording session and they start panicking
yeah,
because they don't know why this is going wrong. And then because they're panicking, it's making everything worse. And then they're looping, looping, looping. And then you have to step in and be like, bro, take a breath,
yeah,
just think about it logically and eliminate one thing after another. And if you come from a live situation, you know the value in that time. You can just
yeah,
approach it. And normally, it's something so stupid, like you just change the cable, or do you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
something's a bit loose. So yeah, I would always suggest to everyone. In fact, my old assistant's sitting behind me, and I said to
yeah,
him, I would always say to him that live sound is where you learn best. Your
yeah.
mum does a little bit of it, I guess, but like nowhere near to the extremes that me and you probably did.
You have to experience that in real life. I
Yeah,
mean, you just said like you mentor people and you do classes and stuff. I do the same, and it's like, we can say all of that stuff a million times, but until you've gone through the stress of almost shitting your pants because there's a band waiting for you and they're about to throw their guitar at your head because they needed to go on 15 minutes ago,
yeah,
you're not going to learn what's at stake.
yeah. Well, I remember one of the worst situations I had was doing like a grime set, and like I don't know if you've ever been to a grime set, yeah, in London, but it's fucking
I,
it's
I
intense.
should have gone last week.
It's intense, yeah, it's intense. I mean, they're not the same nowadays. The
Right.
fucking scenes sort of changed, but like back in the day, it was clashing. And I remember halfway through the set, one of the speakers fell over and like pulled a load of the cables out, and I'm like, shit. And it's being live streamed on Kiss, and it's like just got to figure it all out right then and there. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Everyone's looking. Everyone, no one goes to help. Everyone just stares at you and they're
Yeah.
like, figure it out. And I'm like, well, fucking hell, someone help me! Like shit, like pick up this speaker or something. And you just kick
Yeah.
over. But yeah, that's cool. So then, um, I saw, coming off of that a little bit, I want to talk about, obviously you've been releasing this YouTube series
Hmm.
recently, right? I thoroughly enjoyed your long form content, by the way,
Thanks.
and I think it's great that you've
Appreciate it.
started to put a bit of an emphasis on it. To be fair, oh, and we're getting a feature from the legendary dog that I always see in all your videos as well. That's
Oh
behind
yeah.
you.
And he's tired of me
Yeah.
working all day, so he
Yeah,
just
always putting him
decided to
on
go
camera.
play
Oh, look
his
at him, cute. But,
his ball.
yeah, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, obviously that job role that
Yeah,
you had, because that was Red Bull Studios, and then it got bought by someone, right? So it
yeah,
was the studio that you were working in. Obviously, then you've progressed in that.
yeah,
Um, what what was sort of like the was it scary making the decision to leave?
yeah, definitely. So finishing off this story, I did 2 years of live sound and film set stuff, and then uh, Red Bull was going to rebuild the studio into what now is the Atlantis studio, what for years has been the Red Bull studio.
Ah,
And
okay.
they said, the studio manager said to me, like, hey, uh, we can't do 20 people on, we can't do another engineer every single day, of which we don't know what quality they bring to the table. So we need one fucking guy to do it. And he said, of those 20 people, you are the best. So I want you to run for it. Uh, it was really weird because I've other people that ran for the job were people from big studios here in the Netherlands. And even my school teacher that got me into uh, that internship ish thing at Red Bull in the first place. So he didn't take it too well when he heard that I got the job.
I'm sure he was proud of you. I'm
Yeah,
sure he
yeah, yeah. He wasn't too happy, but at least, yeah, hey, shouldn't have
fair
taught me so well then.
enough.
Uh, but it's like, yeah, and then word came in 2016 or something. Studio manager called me up. He said, "Yo, you're the new head audio of Red Bull Studios."
Wow.
And I was like, "Let's fucking go!" And now I had this entire studio, recording studio. I get the keys to a fucking Ferrari.
Yeah.
No, that's how it felt. Like
What
it
did the
was my
job
dream
role
studio. And
what did
mm,
the job role entail? Like, what was the actual, like, day to day?
basically in charge of all the entire technical side of the studio and running all of the sessions. So not only being the engineer on the sessions every single day, but also doing the maintenance of the studio, getting the artist in, making sure that they're all cared for, and that everything is working as it should be, preparing the sessions. Like, yeah,
So really 3 different job roles.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Everything except for the studio manager role, which I later, when Red Bull had to sell the studio because of COVID and everything, they sold the studio to the owner of the building that the studio is in. And then I also took on like the operational management side of things. So then I also did like invoicing and planning and all of that stuff. And I at first thought I really wanted that, but later I found out that I should just stick to the creative part
Mm.
and maybe the technical
There's a
part.
very big difference between the 2. I've done both as well, where
Yeah,
I ended up becoming the studio manager of the Relentless studio.
right,
And then I looked back, I did it for about 6 months, and I was like, I haven't done a recording session. I haven't been in a recording session in, like, 4 or 5 months. Like, what am I doing? Like,
right,
and I'm just stressed for no reason. And I was like, I've ended up just getting a 9 to 5, which I never wanted. Like,
right. Yeah, that is exactly, yeah, it's exactly the same for me as well. I always put my assistant on all of the sessions because I was so busy with doing the invoicing,
mm,
responding to emails, doing all of that stuff, and doing my own business of mixing records and all the social media stuff. So I just
mm.
didn't have time to get into the room with the artist anymore, and I just didn't really like that.
No, you miss it. I think it's a job role for a particular type of person. Obviously, you can be a music lover and do that job role,
Yeah,
but there's a difference between a music lover and a music creator. And the
right.
job role is not for a music creator because you don't create music in that job.
No,
So Yeah, that's an interesting point, and I think, again, obviously, to everyone listening, it's a good thing to bear in mind. You know, you can get these like carrots dangled in front of you, right? Because people need you just to fill those roles because they
Yeah,
trust you to do it, right? But you do genuinely have to think like, is this the best decision for me? Is this the best role for me? Am I going to thrive in this situation, or is it just a dangling carrot that I'll never reach? Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah. So and so you started to do that, and then was that what and I sort of saw this in your YouTube video, was that what sort of sparked this next chapter in your life?
Yeah, yeah. So I basically had the issue of I am working at the studio of my dreams. My would have been my second home
Mm.
for 8 years already, and I absolutely love the place. I've got all the fucking gear you need right there, an amazing live room, and everybody just always said like, "Yo, this studio is amazing." Every time I said like, "Yeah, I don't know, maybe I should just take a step back and work from home and do everything." Everybody said like, "Yo, you're insane."
Mm.
Like if yeah, because they just didn't know what it cost me, but it cost me all of my headspace. And at some point, I just figured out like I was honestly I was ghosting clients because I was afraid of more work.
Yeah,
And
that's
I had a
terrible.
bunch of work coming in, and I couldn't say no to the studio work because
It's your job.
I had to do that. That was my job. But I could say no uh,
Yeah.
to just mixing a song or doing a collaboration with a brand. And even though that is where I wanted to focus more of my energy and wanted to grow more because I want to be a well-known mixing engineer, content creator, maybe even producer someday. I want stuff to go more that route. But
Mm.
the 9 to 5, just as you said for yourself as well, was like keeping me down there.
Yeah.
I just at some
So
point I
you're
just
saying no to the things that are really important to make sure that you can continue to pay the bills,
yeah,
which is like, you know, that's a big catch 22. That's a situation that's like very difficult for people. Do you know what I mean? And I
yeah,
think it's something where that's where most people fall into the trap. And that was why I really wanted to get you on, because I've watched this video
but
and I've seen the brave decision you've made to like jump ship. And again, the way you described it was right. You know, it's like your dream job. Yeah.
yeah,
What people would perceive to be your dream job anyway. And yeah, I just really wanted to get from your own words, uh, you know, what it meant to do that, and like what the fear behind it, and like having the clarity that it was the right decision, because I feel like that's where a lot of people get lost
yeah,
sometimes. You know, they end up in this rat race without even knowing it, and then they end up forgetting their dreams,
yeah,
right? And their aspirations. And when I was watching that video, that's what stuck out to me. I was like, he's remembered his dream, and that's why he's decided to jump. And I wanted just to get a little bit more
yeah,
into that with you.
yeah. And it's so toxic as well because I'm giving up on what was the ultimate dream for me 8 to 10 years ago.
Mm,
That was like working working every day in a studio like that. I couldn't imagine a dream bigger than that. I
mm,
couldn't imagine that there was something in the world that I would want more than to be there. So to 10 years later say like, this is not working for me. This is not that dream anymore that I had. And my dream is actually somewhere else. It's actually being able to sit at home with my fucking dog on the couch chewing a ball and me having all the gear I need
mm.
to do what I need to do and to focus on where I need to go. And yeah, that was fucking scary because yeah, you've got like you've got this amazing space that you also think of like of a um, how much of a stamp of approval is all of that gear and that space and the legacy that that brings,
Mm.
if that makes sense. It's like
Yeah, I do understand it, and I think from the outside world, that's how it's perceived. But I think if we're both truly honest with each other,
uh,
that's not what really matters. Do you know what I mean?
no, but it does matter to some of your clients, and that
It
is
does,
what I
yeah.
had to gauge. Like, okay, are is everybody with me because of me and what I have in my brain and what kind of skills I have, or are people with me because that's an easy road to recording with a U67 1073 CL1B in a six studio that they can make content in? And my mind went there, and I was like, if I have clients like that think like that, then they are not on the level that I want to be at. So I don't want those clients uh
You
to
don't need
go
them.
to the next level with me
Yeah, you don't
because
need them.
we're not on the same page. So I don't really need those clients.
Yeah,
I want the clients that go like, Thomas, I trust you. You've got a great ear. You've got a great mind. I love working with you. Do what you need to do.
yeah,
Even though they call me up, I'm on the other side of the world. I say, I only have a headphone. I just want clients that say, if you say that you can do this, I trust that you can do this.
yeah. And that is what really matters. And I mean, obviously, the it's proven now, you know,
Yeah.
that you don't need all of that stuff. I mean, like arguably the biggest breakthrough album in the last decade, the Billie Eilish's album, was recorded in her bedroom with her brother with a 103 and an Apollo twin. Like
Yeah.
anyone that really wants to do music could save up and get that,
Yeah.
right? Like, well, over, you know, in Europe or whatever anyway. So, you know, that's where the focus is, and it's about the people. So that's where I was like, I like this and I like what he's done. And, you know, maybe you don't want to talk about it if you don't want to speak bad blood, but like, um, you know, what's your opinion on like the business model of like a big studio nowadays? Because personally, I just like, from a business perspective, right? I just can't see it like being like a very lucrative business. I just don't really find the profit in it.
That's that is the research that I've been doing for a long time because I had to make that work because Red Bull was same as the what was it again? The
Relentless.
Relentless.
Yeah.
I
Brand
was getting
funded.
paid. It wasn't a business model. It was a marketing tool for
Yeah.
Red Bull,
Yeah.
and they had the studio and they invited people in for free. They could
It's a
work,
way of making themselves look cool and get in with popular people.
and that is exactly what the studio these days is. All the studios that I know have something other, have another business than the music, than renting out the studio. Uh, but the studio needs to be a tool of that business. So they're
Mm.
either a record label or a energy drink company, or they are a school, or you're just a really, or it's a private studio from a producer that did really well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's
and
his
they need the
studio. He does
studio
it.
to do their work. But
Yeah, yeah.
renting out the studio is not the business.
Yeah, it's
That's
just
not
like
the
a
business
it's just a
model.
side it's just a side hustle sort of thing.
Maybe that works in the sense of a cube where you've got really low cost rooms and you have a lot of them in the same space.
You're talking about Cube in London?
Even in London, yeah.
Yeah. My friend is one of the managers there, actually.
Right. I
Yeah.
don't know if that business model actually does what it needs to do, but
I guess it is
I
successful. I
feel that
mean,
is the way it could be successful, but that's
That's like
very different
pirate, yeah, that's
from
like pirate. It's low and it's like
yeah,
and it's low maintenance and it's sort of just like, yeah, come in, plug your laptop and you can
yeah,
get going. And I like that business model because it's giving people the opportunity. Like when I was younger, I didn't have a space that I could just like rent for like
right,
£15 an hour to record. I had to figure it all out myself, you know
yeah,
what I mean? And make it in my bedroom, or beg my college at the time to let me stay late and work.
right,
But like, so I like that sort of thing. And I think the Cube does work because they just actually just opened up another studio in Elephant and Castle. So I think
yeah,
they've got like 3 or 4 locations now. So the business model must be working. You
yeah,
know what I mean? It will only be a matter of time until they go like international.
yeah,
Um, but and I don't know if there's anything like that that exists, you know, over on your side. But you know, I think it will only be a matter of time until it's everywhere.
mhm,
But and again, it's leaning in and proving my original point that you know you don't need like a huge music studio with like all these facilities to make great music. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? They do have their place because there's certain things that are needed. Like Abbey Road, for instance, constantly record big orchestras and
yeah,
choirs and things like that. You need a grand space, you need great equipment, and you need a lot of microphones to be able to do that,
yeah.
right?
But
So those,
that's where the business is. Like it's either just catering to the need of a room where you can vibe and write and record
mm,
really cheap and really easy, or it's the other side of the spectrum and you're doing something that you couldn't otherwise do.
no,
I can't put 100-piece orchestra in this room and say, hey, I've got 100 microphones and 100 inputs, let's go.
yeah,
You need a Neve 88 RS for that. You need a giant live room for that. You need all the headphones and the chairs and the cabling. And
mm,
it's a multi-million dollar euro
yeah,
investment to
yeah,
get there
a hundred
in the
percent.
first
And
place.
obviously, you know, there's still a lot of pieces of music that require that as well. And I
Yeah,
think it's important that they stay and
yeah.
that isn't an art form that gets lost.
And that's actually, from what I'm hearing, that is a really good business model nowadays.
Large spaces with the
Yeah,
capacity to record
but
large
it
things.
is it just costs a
Yeah.
shitload of money to get it started.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously, if you used to do that here in London, you're competing against the most famous studio in the world.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
like, you know, and then also we have Air as well, which is, like, also
Yeah.
hugely famous. There's, like London's a bit of a difficult place to, achieve things like that, but,
Yeah.
I do find it great, and I wanted to talk about, like, that decision to move, um and I respected it as well. And yeah, again, sort of like it's weird. I was like, I've watched you online, never really properly spoke to you. We chatted on DMs and stuff, but I just see
Yeah.
so many parallels in like our careers. Because same thing with me, like I had to make the decision. I was doing all of this stuff, and I was like, man, this is shit.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm just getting like rubbish. I remember they said to me once, and if anyone's watching from Relentless, I apologize. They were all great guys, but there was a few things like ASAP Rocky was in town, and I was working with his producer, and he said, and he really liked me. He liked me as an engineer, and he was like, "Bro, I think you should do these Rocky sessions with me." So I'm like, "Obviously, bro, ASAP Rocky, like I'm
Yeah.
so gassed, like let's do this." And he he was like, "Yeah, the only thing is he only works with Red Bull when he comes down. So it's Red Bull Studios in London Bridge, right?
Yeah.
That's where it was." And I was like,
That's
"Shit."
the old studio.
Yeah, this is when I was working there,
Right.
working at
Yeah. Yeah.
Relentless. And so, you know, we're talking like it's got to be like 6, 7 years ago now. Um, and anyway, I've said I'll have to ask because they're like the main competitors. I've stupidly asked my boss. What I should have done is just done and then asked for
Yeah.
forgiveness, right?
Right.
After, but I've asked. They said no way. You're an
Shit.
asset. All of this shit. And I was like, dude, like I don't really like being called an asset. Like that's a bit mad. Like I'm just trying to do my thing.
Yeah.
Luckily, obviously, I met a few other people, and they were like, "Dude, the only reason why people are coming to the studio is to work with you. They don't really care about the spotlight. Just do your own thing, and you'll be fine." And but that decision was super scary
Yeah.
right? So, and that was one of the other questions that I wanted to ask you, because again, you're in a unique position where you've done both and you're doing both well, and you've seen both sides of the spectrum: the independent route, home studio setup, and the big major studio dream job.
Yeah.
To someone that's like looking to make a start in their, industry, you 8 years ago, what advice would you give them? Would you tell them, to try and get a job in a major studio, or would you say, do you know what, you're probably better off just like grinding it out and trying to make it work by yourself?
Yeah. I think uh, the biggest thing, the most valuable thing that I got out of that studio and SAE as well is a network.
Mm,
And that is the most important thing. I'm very introverted. I know it doesn't seem that way online. I switch on an alter ego that's very extroverted, but in real life, I'm very introverted. I love talking to people, but I don't like to come up to people and then start a conversation. And that has always worked against me. But if you're in a situation in a spot somewhere and you just have to meet people because every single day there's someone new
yeah.
coming into the door, then you are going to build your network.
Mm,
And it doesn't have to be a studio. It can also just be the people that you hang out with. There's plenty of people I met through the studio that just said, yo, this guy is my friend. And I just hung out with him. And now he's one of the biggest artists in the world. And now I'm his engineer.
yeah.
That's
Well,
how
that
it
does
went.
happen. That does happen. But and it's about making sure that you are in a position to see the opportunities,
Yeah.
right? And like making sure that you're aware of those opportunities. Because I remember a time, if I look back, and I was given opportunities, but I didn't see them as opportunities at the
Mm,
time, and I let them slip through my fingers. And then I developed a mindset in which allows me to see all of the opportunities and even the half opportunities and turn them into
yeah.
opportunities. And I think that's a skill set that's better than any sort of like technical learning how to use a compressor or something like
Yeah.
that. If you have that skill set, then you definitely will go far. Do you know what I mean? But so if someone doesn't like, because it's a question I'm interested in, because I'd love to be, I get asked this all the time. I don't
Yeah.
know if you have an answer to it, and I'd love to be able to give a better answer to what I do give. But like, if someone doesn't have the opportunity of the big studio, they're like, just like you, outside of a major city, right? What's sort of like the process for them to gain that network? Because some people, they're just like, dude, I live in like the back end of nowhere. There isn't a network here for me. Like,
Yeah.
what would you say is the sort of like route to getting that network?
Social media is a really powerful tool if you can't move out of the place that you're in. I mean, like just start conversations with people. Like
Mm,
you don't have to sell yourself within the first DM. Just I've got a lot of friends all over the world just because either me or they slide in a DM with "Yo, I love what you do," da 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 da, and you start to out about gear or whatever.
just
And
like me and you.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. And then a friendship forms, and then it's like, yeah, if it happens that we're either of us has an opportunity that we see a collaboration in, it's like, yo, call each other up, and if you have 100 people that might
Mm,
have a thing going, then yeah, and you
yeah.
don't need to be somewhere else for that. It helps. It helps if you just go
Eventually, I feel
to a
like you have
party
to.
or a mixer or
Yeah.
whatever, and you can just go up to people. Um, that helps.
Mm,
But there's a big luxury in social media, and also just take on the opportunities you can get. I very early on in my career was always money minded. I always was like, I need to make money, and in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, you needed to make money, but you also let stuff slip that was really valuable because you were focused on I'm not getting paid enough.
Mm. I
I'm
think
really
that's a
glad I
very easy mindset to slip into though, and a majority of people do that. And obviously that's something that changed for you when you decided to take this jump anyway, you know?
yeah.
Like,
But
cl
I'm glad that I allowed myself to work for free for Red Bull because it was so apparent what kind of an opportunity it was.
the value in it.
The value in it because the caliber of artists that were working there, the studio that was just my dream to be in at the first place. If I had to pay to be there, I would do it almost
Mm,
do it as well. But it was like I needed to be in that room. That felt right. But
yeah.
there's also been uh plenty of times that someone says, "Yo, just come hang out and join us in our studio," and I went like, yeah, but now you just want to be friends because I'm a good engineer and you need one.
Yeah, but
Good, but yeah, I could have said yes
yeah,
more often.
yeah.
So
And you never
that
know
is,
what comes out of that situation,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. And if you don't
That's
have that
interesting
studio to get to
to
know all
connect
those
those
people,
dots.
then that is the way to go, I think.
Mm,
Just tagging along and uh yeah, there's often there are these groups of artists and producers that just tag along together and they create a buzz. And if you can get into that, then you immediately tap into, hey, there's a producer there. Okay, they like my mixes or they like how I am in a session. Uh, and now they've got this artist, but next week they've got that artist. That artist gets signed by that label. Okay, now there's a bit of money there. Oh, hey, what?
yeah,
I've got
so
all
crazy.
the work I need now because I got in with the right people. And I
Yeah,
think
that's it.
for mixers or engineers, especially mixers, it's you need to make you need to be good with all the producers
And you need
because
to
the
have a lot.
producers are
You
going to
need to have a
say,
lot of them as well.
yeah, the producers are going to say, yo, we need him for this mix. Oh,
Mm.
today's more,
Yeah, because they have the ear, the art
yeah,
more so than most of the artists do. So they'll be the ones that are like, occasionally, like I've got quite a few clients. I don't like to call them clients, but like artists that I work with that are
yeah,
like, um, you know, I'm like the only person that ever gets their vocals right. So they won't work with anyone else. Like the
right,
producer will say, if we want this sound, maybe we should try this guy, but they'll always be like, nah, like Jocelyn knows how to get my vocal, and that's what's most important to them. So
yeah,
obviously that does help as well, like creating that sound with the artist
yeah,
and taking the time to listen to what they're trying to achieve as well. Because I feel like a lot of engineers, especially when you get to like our level where we're sort of like in and we've been working, we sort of know what we're talking about, it's very easy for us to say, to turn to an artist and be like, I know what I'm talking about. You need to listen to me. Do you see what I'm saying?
mm,
Like, that's a bad way of looking at it because you're going to end up upsetting them because they might not have the like right, like, wording and they can't
yeah,
articulate themselves properly to say how they mean from a technical standpoint, but that doesn't mean that their opinion isn't any less valid. It's their art at the end of the day. So like
yeah, and
that's something that I
it's
see
how,
people messing up.
yeah, it's how they want to hear their song, and even though they can't really say what you need to do. It's your job to interpret, like, okay, it's the demo. You like the demo better. What's about it? Because all I can hear in the demo is 10K spiked up and over compression and what's happening. But maybe then it's like, okay, so you need that airy top end, but we need to make it not that harsh.
Yeah.
You want it over compressed, but we still need the body in the vocal and not to make it feel too fatiguing,
Mm,
but powerful. Like it's all of those things that, yeah, you need to be able to
yeah.
build a good
That's what we
relationship.
get paid to do is figure that stuff out. You know
The
what I
only
mean?
thing that we get paid to do is to get out of the way of the art and
Yeah,
make sure nothing gets in the way of the art, and the art is presented in a way that everybody on the other side of the planet hears that song the way that that artist
yeah. Envisioned
wants it
it.
to
Yeah.
be heard. And
Yeah. Sometimes there is scope to put your own imprint on it and improve it, like if you think that you can do that. But obviously that's at the artist that's at the artist decision. Do you know what I mean? Like they have to make that decision. Coming off that topic a little bit, because I just want to make sure I get some of these questions that I've got down and asked before we go. But
But
because I could clearly see me and you could just chop up for
yeah.
hours. But what made you pick up the camera and start creating content? It's interesting for me because it's
Yeah.
a journey that I've started in like the last year taking seriously.
Right.
Um, and I would say, there's a few people in the industry that are like coming to the top and like mastering it. And I think you being one of those people. So I'm quite
Oh,
interested to
thanks,
uh,
man.
understand that well, because you seem to capsulate it properly, and when I watch you, it's like I can really relate to you, from not just being as a person trying to make their way in the world, but also as an engineer. So I'm quite interested in like what sparked that, and
Mhm.
like the journey that is taking you to sort of like get this refined with it.
Um, so when I was working for Red Bull, I noticed that uh, I was working with a lot of talented people, and they were yeah they got into the studio, but not all of them knew everything about all the studio etiquettes or how stuff worked. If I plugged in a vocal chain into an Apollo, that you now dial in the gain underneath and how all of that works. And every session I was saying the same thing, and almost getting annoyed by the next person that came in. Like, okay, you also don't know how it works. And I was like, okay, I can have the same conversation every single day, or I can make a video showing people how that works. And
Mm,
maybe 10 people will see it and they pick up on it and they go like, oh, I didn't know that. Okay, now next session I know how then that works. Um, so I wanted to do that for a really long time already when I was working at Red Bull, but I was I had a full-time job and I was mixing on the side, and I had a life back
yeah.
then still. No, not anymore. But it's like, yeah, I wanted to do that. And then COVID hit and Red Bull fired me. And I was like, okay, um, I've got to rebuild my entire business from scratch. Because, yes, I had clients that I mixed for and I had some gigs here and there, but I, Red Bull paid for 80-90% of my paycheck
Mm,
of what came in every month was from Red Bull. So on that 10-20%, I couldn't live. So I needed to restart my own business and market myself in a new way. And I always wanted to make those videos. So I was like, hey,
yeah.
let's just do
Do
that
it now.
and spread the knowledge so that actually people can learn from all the things that I've learned over the years,
Mm.
uh, and also build my business and build my brand.
When did it start, like, you know, popping off though? And like, you sort of gained traction with it, because you got a fairly decent following on Instagram now.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? And I would assume the majority of that is from this content. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
That you've been making. It's nice because I see it and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So there is that many people that I can tap in with. Do you see what I'm saying?
yeah,
There is a market for it. Like guys like yourself and Devon, Wavy, do you know what I mean? That are all sort of like doing this thing and
yeah.
creating this vibe around it. Like what was sort of like that moment that you started to see traction and you were like, oh, there's something in this and I should really like follow it. Do you know what I mean?
Um, well, you obviously you have the moments where it grows the most. That's like for TikTok, which blew up first, was the Willip microphone stuff. So I turned electronic objects into microphones. So
Oh,
from
sick.
an old telephone to a Game Boy to a microwave to a lighter to all of that stuff. I just soldered into microphones and then I recorded myself. I can't play any instruments anywhere, anywhere decent enough, but just banging on a piano, shouting in the mic, slamming a guitar, and then through those really lo-fi mics. And that popped off. That got like
Sick.
millions of views on TikTok, and then I got all my following there. Funnily enough, just before that happened, I was saying to my assistant, like, yo, we've been doing this for a year now. Nobody cares about it. I'm going to quit all this social media shit. I'm I'm going to do full-time mixing and sessions, and this wasn't for me. And then like a week or a month later, this blew up and it was like overnight tens of thousands of followers gained. And it was like, yo,
Wow.
what the hell's happening here? And then it was a really weird contrast because TikTok was at like 40K followers and really popping off. And Instagram was still like 2,000 views, 3,000 views, like 4,000 followers. It was
Mm.
not doing the same. So, but I was feeding it the same content. And I think for Instagram, it's the more mature crowd, and it's the relatable content. So the thing that popped off was, when you're at a concert and you go like, there's just too much 2.5K in this PA.
Yeah.
Oh, really? You're going all out with the delay? Oh, you should have tapped a little bit better, man. I notice it's going out of time with all of that kind of stuff, and I
The
just
shit that my girlfriend, fiance gets super pissed off about that I'm talking about
exactly.
when we're trying to enjoy
Yeah,
a
but
concert.
it's
Yeah.
so relatable for all of us.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
just felt myself at a festival or at a concert or whatever, and I just filmed my head like making slightly weird faces and then putting in the screen like, this violin has 2.785 dB too much at 3.689 kilohertz.
Fuck's sake.
It was like, and all of a sudden that blew up. So I did a couple of those. I did like at the club, at a concert, at a classical concert, at a festival, at all of those things, and it's fun because people just relate to it, and
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. That's fun, and yeah, I don't know if I don't know, I can't really remember what the first thing I saw of yours. I think it might have been you were doing something. It was back when you were in the big studio
Mhm.
and you were doing something to do with cabling. I'm pretty sure that might have been. I would have definitely seen your videos before, but that was the first video that I latched onto, and I was like, "Oh,
Right.
let me check this guy out." Do you know what I mean? This was a few years ago
Yeah.
now. But yeah, no, very good content. It's always been very high quality, and then obviously you've started to now take YouTube more seriously. I'm taking
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So I always wanted to do like more in-depth stuff, and I always did the fun and relatable stuff, but I always wanted to just uh I didn't just want to be the comedy page,
Mm.
want to
You're a bit
be
more
able to teach
seriousness.
something and share some knowledge. That was why I started in the first place. And 1 minute is 1 minute.
Mm.
I can speak really fast, but 1 minute, like 1 minute 30, you can do now. I never do it, but there's not enough time. And it's just like you're in this space
Yeah, you
that,
can't break down
yo,
your rap vocal chain in a minute
no,
properly. You can tell them the core elements of it,
yeah,
but you
yeah,
can't tell them why you
yeah,
use it, and that's what people wanna know.
yeah. And I started checking out YouTube content because I was never on YouTube because it was like this medium that died 10 years ago, I thought. And now I'm like, okay, let me check what's on YouTube. And I found this Matt Armstrong, this British guy that buys crashed
S
supercars.
Awesome, awesome channel. Brilliant
But
channel.
it doesn't matter if he bought supercars, houses or like Playmobil figures. It's like what he does, the story that he tells, he takes you with him on this journey of, yo, I bought something that we thought was out of reach, but because it's crashed, it's actually I could buy it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
now
yeah.
I have to fix it, but I'm showing it to you in a way that you would almost think that you could do it yourself as well.
Yeah, totally. You do sit there and think, "Fucking
Yeah.
hell, I might start doing
Oh,
this."
getting oil? Sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Okay.
it.
Hey, just soldering, welding the entire frame. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's a Thursday. Come
But the
on.
thing is, it is like, he is just doing it. That's the only difference. Like, we can all do it. And we
Yeah,
just like music, like, we can all do it. We can
yeah,
all engineer. We can, it's the difference between, just doing it
yeah,
and then going that one step further and documenting it for people.
yeah,
That's what I always loved about, well, maybe I'm not very good at the short form stuff, but like that's why I much prefer doing the long form because you can tell a story.
yeah,
They really get to know you as a person, and like because that was one of the things that when I watched that series about you quitting your job, I really liked it because I was like, mate, this guy's like fucking doing the Casey Neistat of the audio world. Like he's telling the story, he's driving in his car, it's all these different locations. Like
yeah,
I'm fully invested. I can watch this whether I care about his topic or not. Like it just goes on my iPad whilst I'm having my cereal in the morning and I'm
right,
enjoying it. That's like I'm like, that's the fucking content. Like that's what needs to be
right.
made. You
Yeah,
know, I'm trying to drift into that myself. Obviously, this podcast is really good because people can do that and they
yeah,
just watch it because they enjoy it. But
yeah,
like my actual content, most of it is tutorial based stuff. And I'm like trying to make it like entertainment as well as a tutorial.
right,
So you get the two audiences. You get the people that just fuck with Mixed by Jocelyn and they want to watch the video because it's
yeah,
fun. And then you get the people that are like, I genuinely care about his opinion on Sooth too. Do you know
right.
what I mean? And it's like the same thing. So it's trying to figure out that. There's one guy, I don't know if you know him, this guy's Peter McKinnon, YouTuber. He does photography. He's brilliant.
Yeah,
He sort of like nailed that for me. And that because I don't give a fuck about photography, but I'll watch all of his videos because they're entertaining. And he's given
yeah,
me like tutorials on Photoshop. Don't even think I've ever opened Photoshop in my life,
right,
but it's like cool. So now I'm thinking if we could do that for audio,
yeah.
like it's fucking off. Do you know what I mean? It's gone. So brilliant space. And I think, like what's sort of like next for that? Like what's the plan with YouTube if you got one?
Yeah, definitely. I liked the road trip so much that actually my plan is to do a road trip in the new year and go fully mobile. Just have a, a suitcase with a couple of gear pieces, no outboard gear, just Apollo X4 headphones, couple of microphones, and a couple of stands, and then just drive all over Europe and make music with people, record people,
Sick.
get to know new people, like look for the stories everywhere and see
So
what's
you drive
happening.
into Essex and you're gonna come and have a session with me and we'll make a YouTube video together.
Yeah, man, let's do it.
I'm down.
Definitely.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
I'll get my POV, you get your POV.
That who did that with Casey Neistat? They did like an Amsterdam trip
Oh,
for a weekend, and they did their POV on both of their channels.
it's, that New Zealand guy, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he's great. I think he's like he's now like the, head videographer for Mr. Beast or something now, like,
Oh
he's
yeah.
fucking
Wow.
doing mad stuff, yeah.
Yeah. But
That's
that's also the crazy thing. I don't know how you view it, but a Mr. Beast, a Matt Armstrong, it's like they're making money off of this
oh,
shit.
yeah, yeah,
We're
yeah.
not going to make this type of money off of this shit.
Yeah, I mean,
At least I haven't cracked the code yet. Maybe you have, but it's like it's also a passion project.
so that's the thing, it's you gotta do it out of love,
Yeah,
right? and these guys do it out of love, right? But that's sort of what I was leaning into before is like, obviously their content's a bit broader, but there's nothing to say that we can't tailor our content to feel broad from a
Mhm.
narrow perspective. If you see what I'm saying, like Peter McKinnon's a great example of this. Maybe just check his stuff out after,
Yeah,
because he is a photographer and his channel started from photography tutorials, but he built it out in a way that he's now a YouTuber over a
yeah,
photographer, right? So it's like, how do you do that? And I think that's the one thing. And having a very honest conversation with you about it, because like really, you're like a competitor of mine, right? Yeah, like
yeah.
we don't see each other like that, but really we are, right? And it's like, but I'm trying to work out like how we can do that, because I don't think anyone's done that yet. Like there's great channels that exist, like
Yeah.
Help Me Devon and Wavy Wayne, right? Mixed by Jocelyn if you're not subscribed. And um, you know, that haven't managed to like that to get that personality out. And I think that there's a huge market and a space for that, and someone can develop into that role. And
Yeah.
that's sort of like my particular mindset on it right now, and why I'm almost obsessed with it, to the point
Mhm.
where I'm like trying to figure out how to do it,
Yeah.
like with the combination of like the podcast and XYZ. The thing that I'm like, I think I could do a lot more with, and figure out, is the short form
Mhm.
content, because that's like where you grab everyone's attention. And arguably, I wouldn't have found out about you or Devon if it wasn't for the short form content. So it's like, okay, if I want people to find out about myself or whatever, then maybe that's a necessary part of the game. But like, I'm so obsessed with building the story. Do you know what I mean? So, but
But there's also a really, really powerful thing about the YouTube algorithm. I found out it's like
yeah,
because the thing is, short form is a lot of fun, and it's great to have a big audience on those channels, but they're not as engaged.
no,
Like
it's
the
weird. We were saying, me and Jackson, we're literally saying this about an hour ago.
yeah,
Like 300 views on YouTube is far more valuable than 3,000 views on Instagram.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
because people are watching it. Do you know what I mean? They're not
People
just
are
scrolling.
already engaged in you, and they want
Mm,
to, like, on Instagram or TikTok, you're just one of the people that they scroll through, and of course you've got a lot of people that engage more in DMs and that are actually waiting for your next video. But on YouTube, it's like, at least for me, it's like, yo, when is the new Matt Armstrong video going to come online? When is
mm.
there a new Devon video? When is there, like,
Well, you almost know their upload schedules, and it's like watching
yeah,
TV. Like, when it's coming out, and if it doesn't come out, you're like, dude, where's the fucking
yeah,
video?
call them up like, hey, yo,
I get it. I get it, and I love it. But you off? Yeah, yeah, all good. No, no, it's all good. Um, yeah, sorry about that, guys. For everyone that can't see, that was Jackson.
hey,
He's gone.
it's what
He's been
keeps the channel real, right?
he's been sitting there like dead silent, obviously just like trying to creep out without interrupting the podcast this whole time, like trying to ninja his way out.
Yeah,
But yeah, like I get like some messages and on my comments, they're like, "Oh, when's part 7 of the mixing video coming out?" And I'm like, if I was like in a bad mood for
mm,
whatever reason, or having a bad day, that comment just motivates me so much. Like one person wanting to see part 7, I'll make that whole video.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Because it's
yeah,
like sick. Let's fucking go. Like people care, and it's like I'm making a difference. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? So yeah,
But
I
how do
think
you
it's great.
balance it with like your day-to-day work? Like, obviously, you
Yeah, I
have a lot of
mean,
mixes to do the entire
mm,
whole week. So how do you
yeah, I
balance?
mean, yeah, I'm definitely I'm a full-time mix engineer, and I have been for a
Yeah.
long time now. But I mean, uh, I prioritized it, because I thought it was really necessary. And you know what it is, yeah? So I've thought about my career quite a lot recently. Um, and and I was thinking about my unique selling point, right? Every business needs a unique selling point, right? If they want to
Yeah.
thrive, right? And I'm looking at myself as an engineer, and I'm like, okay, I'm a great engineer. I can mix well, but there's a lot of great engineers, right? Arguably, maybe even better than me, right? I can spend my time and probably get to the greatest point that I possibly could. But then, what are my other skill sets as well, right? Like I'm sure you've discovered, as you said naturally you're an introvert, yeah? I'm
Yeah.
quite the same. I'm not an extrovert, and no one would ever think that when they watch my videos. They're like, this guy's loud and obnoxious, right? So, but I'm like, okay, what are my skill sets? I can talk, I can be uh, animated when I need
Yeah.
to be. So why don't I combine these two things that I love and push that as my project? And then it's like a Buddhist saying where you do something that you're great at, you do something that you love, and you do them in service, right? So that's how I perceive this. Is that I'm very good at engineering. I love talking about it and
Yeah.
making videos and stuff. Let me give it in service to everyone. So and in that way you find real fulfillment. And I have to say, like, it's 100% true. Like, I as I said, one comment on my YouTube sparks me and gets me going to keep doing it. So for me now, to answer your question, is like, it's very, it's my most important thing.
Right.
Just like what you said, paying the bills, getting the money in, yes, cool, it's important, but you can't forget the things that are, of what you get passion out of. I get extreme pleasure from doing this kind of thing. I love doing it. I love watching it grow. I also love mixing, so I can do both. I don't work a day in my life I haven't done in the last 10 years,
Right.
right? So just that's why I'm like, okay, cool, I'll just balance the two. And now, to answer it in a more literal way, like I just say, like, when it comes to the podcast, priority, I just do it whenever the client can,
Yeah.
yeah, or the guest, sorry. So yourself, I'll just make that available, cool. And then the other videos, I just do like Monday. I'll just say, cool, Monday I ain't mixing. Like if
Mm.
anyone wants a mix, it's gonna be Tuesday.
Well,
I'm
that's
just
also a luxury you have to build for yourself.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. Yes, that's true. And but like, for instance, if they did want a mix on the Monday,
Yeah.
there's a rush fee for that. So
Right.
they have to pay me out of what I want to do,
Yeah.
basically. That's how I think about it. And that actually happened this Monday. I had a client and he was like, I need this done yesterday. And I was like, cool, bro, I'm busy right now. The only way you're going to get me to do it is this. And that's
Yeah.
just me being transparent and honest.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then he was like, fine, fair enough. And then, yeah, cool. I moved on to do it. But most of the time I'm like, cool, Mondays, I just make content. Do you know what I mean? I make my video, I edit my thing, and I have fun with it. But yeah, I mean, I like the way that you do it because your stuff is like almost unstructured, like a road trip. Like you can't really schedule that in on a Monday. Do you know what I mean? You're going on a
Yeah.
road trip when you're doing it. So I'm thinking maybe I should be more flexible with it. But yeah,
Yeah. I tried doing the schedule thing, but I just get too excited. Uh,
when you have the idea,
yeah. And I just go, oh, I need to do this right now. I get new gear in, and it's like, yo, I need to make a video about
yeah.
this. I've got a new idea. I had the new Apollos. Yeah, I need to install it. I'm not going to make a video afterwards. I'm going to take you with me in the installation process. And
Mm,
also, I think a good thing about it is also being vulnerable. And
mm,
it's super scary, but because it's also saying to the people that follow you, uh, like, yo, I don't know everything, and I'm not some encyclopedia that just double checks everything the entire time. And I go like, hey, maybe this works in this way, maybe that doesn't work in that way. And it's like
yeah. It's
I
an
messed
honest way
this
of
up.
making
And
content.
now,
It's an honest way of making content. And I feel like it makes it a lot easier for people to engage with you as well. Not just like they actually like you and like watching your videos, but actually like they can communicate with you honestly. Do you know what I mean? Like in the DMs, on the comments. Obviously, we all know if you make videos and put them online, there's some right fucking assholes out there that just want to make comments for the sake of making comments. But like those ones you sort of take with a pinch of salt. Like But yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it's great. I love everything that you're doing, and yeah, I
Yeah,
mean leads me on to like one of my last questions. I've got two more for you. People are
nice.
going to get irritated, so I might need to say three, but we'll go for it. We'll try to narrow it down. What's next for you? Like, so now you quit your job, you've gone full time. All It's all about Thomas now.
Mhm.
What's like the next few years look like for you?
Um, so yeah, I basically, as an engineer, I do what I've always been doing. I get a lot of questions from people, what the hell's happening now? What are you going to do? But I basically already worked from home in the past 9 to 12 months. I did that as a trial as well to see, like, okay, can I actually make everything work from home? I could. So basically on that end, there's not that much that's changing. I would like to get into a new studio someday, but first I need to get my mind straight and get all these ideas out and see the world and do fun stuff and take everybody with me on that path and also to be able to build a studio someday and take everybody on that journey. I need to make sure that I got enough money to actually do that. So
Mm,
that's also where both of the sides of the business, both the mixing and recording and producing side, but also the content side come in, because
mm,
both of those need to feed into uh, enough money to actually build a studio.
yeah. I
So
think
that's
I
what I'm trying to
obviously
figure out.
I think it will naturally happen though. If I genuinely think like the YouTube side of things and your content, and then obviously you being a talented engineer in itself, just pursuing it and now being able to give your full attention to it,
Yeah.
I think it will work. And
Yeah.
that's what I was saying. I always say to people again, like I feel like in Europe there's not a lot of guys like us, right?
Mm.
That are making content, and that's why I was so excited when you started doing the YouTube stuff, probably because I'm like, yes, we need this. Like, this is the kind of community that is important, and why I'm doubling down on it so much.
Right.
Because if you go to America, man, some of these guys are like, oh, thumbs up. Some of these guys are like, it does this and then it freezes it. It's so annoying. One
Oh
second.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, now it's lost my camera. So everyone's gonna be cut out for a second.
Oh shit.
1 second. Let me just fix it. Um, 1 sec. I'll
It's also
cut it.
constantly uploading. Is that just what it
No,
does? Or you need to wait for that.
it's something. Oh yeah, it's always uploading. It won't take a second once we're done. 1 second. Uh, 1 sec. Fucking hell. We'll speed it up after this. Um, there we go.
Oh, it did that because of the thumbs up?
Yeah, it's weird. I need to whatever that is.
It's
I
weird that it does that. I thought it only did that with FaceTime or something.
Yeah, I don't know if it's Google or what, but whatever it is, I need to uninstall it because it's
You
annoying
need
and
to
it
do it
really
like
fucks with
this
the
now.
camera. Well, yeah, I know. It's whenever I do these signs, it
Yeah.
fucks it up. But anyway, so we'll get back to it. Sorry guys, camera cut out. We're back rolling again. So yeah, so I think that's all great and important stuff. And obviously I'm looking forward to seeing the progression with the YouTube. I'd love to collaborate more
Yeah, man.
with
Just
you as well,
do
and
it.
I think we could do some cool stuff together. But the one of the other questions I wanted to ask you was if you had the opportunity to speak to your younger self, knowing what you know now and the journey that you've been through, what advice would you give him?
Um, don't hesitate so much. Just do it or go for it or talk to the people you need to talk to. Um, yeah, I think it
Nice.
all comes down to overthinking.
Mm.
Like also with the money thing. Like once I just said like, hey, there were points that I had like $300 on my bank account. Uh, and I just went like, okay, but I don't want to do that job because that is not what's in line for me.
Mm.
What I think that I should be doing, and I didn't, and it worked out some way.
Mm. The
Uh,
power of saying no.
yeah, yeah, and daring to say no.
Mm.
I had like a collab uh with a big headphone speaker brand, but consumer. Oh, I won't say names, but
You can
they
tell me
offered me
after.
a good chunk of money for 3 reels.
Right.
It was like the best money I've ever gotten for a collab. And at some point, I just said, "No, sorry, I can't do this because as uh, as an engineer, as a music professional, I feel this is too much of a consumer product that it would not sit well with my integrity as
Right.
a
They
professional."
wanted to borrow your
They
integrity
wanted to,
as a
yeah,
professional
yeah,
engineer
they
to make
wanted
it
to have the
seem that their
professional
headphones are better.
stamp on their product, and I was like, mm, "Yes, it's a great bag, but
Yeah.
go
Is
to
there
do
not
it."
a way of, like, working that in the reels, or maybe they would have worked that out of it?
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
yeah.
they would have
It's
edited it out.
so like, yeah. Maybe I could have. Sometimes I'm like, "Yeah, fuck, I should have done that. Made my life a lot easier." But the end of the day, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I respect it. I respect it, and just being true to what you want. And obviously, yeah, if it gets to a point where you like you have to perceive something that you don't believe in,
yeah,
then that shouldn't ever be the case, because that is the one thing about all of the content that I enjoy watching. Like, if it's the content that I try to make with yourselves or whoever on YouTube, like one of the reasons why I love that video you put out and why I asked you on was because of how real it was and
yeah.
how honest it was. And I was like, that's brilliant. That's what we need more of. Do you know what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah.
having that foresight's is good, to be fair.
I
Um,
think that's the key to success on social media,
yeah.
the honesty and just
Yeah, I think maybe not success, but longevity, because you can be
true.
successful for
Yeah,
some
I like
bullshit on
that.
social media. Like
Yeah.
that's the point. Like people get successful for bullshit, right? But it
Yeah, but
doesn't it
I
doesn't
don't see
last.
that as success.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's just yeah, yeah,
That's a
yeah.
moment.
You say Haktua once and it's like you're everywhere for a month and then what? Then nobody cares about you anymore.
Mm.
You can't build a business
Well, it'll be
anymore.
interesting to see what she
You made a
does do with that. To be fair,
you made
because
a you made a good amount of money from it, I'm
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it's not like in 10 years, Haktua remake.
No, no, no.
No, it's not. She didn't build a brand just by doing that. She built like a buzz, and that
Now
was
she's trying
fun.
to
But
build a brand. Yeah, yeah.
that's not success. That's
No,
just
and it's
luck.
a lot easier to maintain it if you do it the other way around. If you
Yeah,
build the brand and then have your moments
yeah,
of success, like don't look for virality, basically look for consistency.
yeah.
But
And it's fucking hard if you see everybody getting hundreds of thousands of followers and views and everything, and everybody's popping off, and it's not working for you. And
mm,
you're slowly growing. I'm seeing that with my YouTube channel now. Like I slowly grow on YouTube, and my Instagram and TikTok have gone through these
yeah,
insane spikes of following. And my YouTube just won't do that.
yeah, yeah,
But I'm fine with it because I know that if every subscriber I get every single day is someone that actually wants to,
yeah. That's gonna stay with you.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's how I feel about it. Like when I see the subscribers, I'm like, cool. That's actually a fan. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Not just someone that's it's not just been an impulse, it's someone that cares, you know. And then like obviously I create these like digital products that go alongside that, you know, and it's me trying to again bring more value to them. And then I say it as a way like it's value for you, but you can support the channel if you purchase it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like they do that and I'm like giving them something useful, but then it even shows me even more like, oh, these people care. Do you know what I mean? So that's like such a nice thing. And obviously that can keep growing. Like there's no end to that. That's what's brilliant. There's not a ceiling. There's no like flaw
Yeah.
in the business model. You can just keep getting more and more people behind you. Do you know what I mean? And like grow it to a point where you can sustain yourself and be successful. But anyway, enough about social media because most of the people that are watching this podcast don't give a fucking shit and they just want us to talk about music. So the
Right.
last question I'm going to ask you before we wrap it up, and probably should have asked it sooner, and probably and that's why yeah, it's what everyone cares about most of the time. Very short, very quick, snappy answers. Your three favorite plugins at the moment.
Wow, my thinking is definitely not short.
I'll edit
All
it.
of a sudden, right here. Oh,
Yeah.
Pro Q3. I can't live without Pro Q3. Decapitator and Echo Boy.
Echo Boy. Oh, that's a new one. That's a new
Yeah,
one. Okay, sweet. Yeah. No, no one's given me Echo Boy before. I
Echo
think
Boy. I love Echo Boy.
90% of the times that I've asked it, it's been Pro Q3. So I almost feel like Pro Q3 needs to bring out like a fucking alternative version, like a collector's version of their plugin, just because of how
Right.
notorious it is, like a
Yeah,
gold version of it. But yeah, or it needs to win some sort of fucking award or something because everyone says Pro
everyone out.
Q3.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
One that's come up quite a lot recently is Gold Clip, which is a brilliant plugin. I don't know if you tried
yeah,
Gold
man, I love
Clip.
Gold Clip. Mine expires today, I think. I've emailed the
Ah,
guys like,
you'll have to get the what he does like a rent to own as well. But
yeah,
I actually was chatting. I got to meet Ryan, the guy that created it, a couple of weeks ago in New York.
nice.
Chopped out with him. He's a really cool guy. So and he's got some wicked stuff coming out
Yeah. Did you go to
soon.
AES?
I went just after. So
No.
again, I can't talk about it right now. But
Ooh,
like, um, stuff is coming
right.
basically. So yeah, it's cool.
Uh,
I'll tell you after, but yeah.
yeah,
um, anyway, on that note, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's been a brilliant chat, and yeah,
yeah,
clearly we could have scheduled in 2-3 hours, and we still
yeah, yeah,
talking.
definitely.
But you know, if it's me coming over to Amsterdam or you coming over to London, next time we'll have to get a beer and chop it up properly.
Yeah, man, definitely.
But yeah, and for all you guys listening at home, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. If you have, please make sure you subscribe or follow or whatever you're doing on all these platforms. Give it a like, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Safe. Boom.
Later.